Yeah. What's up, good people, and welcome to another episode of Keep It Thorough, where we give you the real behind business, health, money, and self development, and introduce engaging concepts to help you elevate your performance in all areas of life. I'm your host, Cedric Lavelle, joined by my counterpart, E Double. Yeah.
Your boy E Double. We back at y'all, man. Season three, episode 104. And the
104.
title of this episode is Extreme Ownership: How Personal Accountability Becomes Your Superpower. So, real good episode. And as always, be sure to check out the kit that corresponds to this episode at keepitthorough.com/kits. Also, our hats are on there, and a lot of all of our other kits, previous kits, all 104 of them.
Yeah.
So be sure to check that out. But without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this thing off, man.
Yes, sir. Let's get to it, man. So here's the real blame and escapism is a common
I like
response.
that. I like that word, bro.
Escapism? Yeah,
Escapism.
yeah, you know what I'm
I
saying?
like that.
When we do this keep it thorough thing, I come across all sorts of new words. You know what I'm
Man,
saying? Even the word
escapism.
of the day, judicious. I didn't know what that meant. But we got that word. So words of the day, you know what I'm saying? But escapism, right? It's a common response for so many people when things don't go the right way. There's always the finger pointing, placing blame. If this would have happened, then I could have done this. If this would have happened, then this would have been able to get here. If this person would have done this for me, then I would have been able to do X, Y, and Z. And it's one of those common things that many people go through, right? We look at a situation, and instead of looking at that situation inwardly, we focus on what's going on outwardly, right? What are the things that are happening that's influencing these results and influencing these outcomes, opposed to looking at things inwardly and asking ourselves, how can we impact the situation? What changes can we make to affect the results and then affect the overall outcome, right? In that aspect of it takes a different approach. You know what I'm saying? It takes a different mindset to have when you look inward for answers, opposed to looking at things that you can't control. And so when we speak about having this extreme ownership and allowing it to be a driving force of your life, it takes an extreme amount of accountability. It takes an extreme amount of self-awareness and self-assessment, right? Because when you choose to operate your life in a way where personal accountability is something that you take full responsibility of, and you begin to not allow circumstances to dictate how you respond, but you rather respond to the circumstances in a way that's beneficial for you. It's in those moments where life begins to change. It's in those moments where you can look in the face of adversity and not feel like you're a victim but a victor. You can go into different situations and feel like you have the upper hand, opposed to allowing those situations to really break you or bury you. But you have a mindset where I'm going to focus on everything that I can control, and whatever the outcome is, I'm not going to allow it to affect me in a way where it hurts me or allow it to hinder me from where I'm trying to go. So extreme ownership, man. There's a book about it. I haven't read it in detail, um, but it's really something where I feel like it's life changing. You know what I'm saying? Because we all go through our own situations, our own traumas. We have our own struggles. But when we take a different approach to those things, and really focus inwardly, I feel like that can be the changing point in a lot of people's lives that will push them towards the destiny that they want to fulfill.
Absolutely, man. And it's as simple as this, right? Control the controllables. Worrying about things you have absolutely no control over is a complete waste of time,
Yeah.
waste of energy, and you will have an endless number of excuses. you know, so kind of moving on, right? So as we go through life, we undoubtedly will come across pivotal dilemmas that shape our destiny. So how we respond to them circumstances, right, speaks volumes about, not only our mental toughness, but also the depth of our character, right? Like who we are as a person. So, at though, when you come across those pivotal dilemmas or different situations, at those crossroads is when extreme ownership becomes a trusted guide, right? So it's leading you to choose growth over stagnancy, right? Exploration over ignorance, and acceptance over denial. And extreme ownership turns the spotlight back on you,
Yeah.
right? It's about you and how you choose to deal with it, and control the controllables. And it dismisses the habit of blaming external circumstances for outcomes that didn't happen, which goes back to what said was mentioning, right? um and when you embrace this concept, which is a very, very strong concept, you take control of your personal and professional development, and then that impact will be undeniable. Just period, point blank. Like it will be undeniable, because you'll see a lot more success, because instead of you making excuses, you're going to find
Yeah.
solutions, right? And the power of extreme ownership not only fuels self-improvement, but you also create a space for a better team dynamic, and that allows for collective growth. And the way that kind of works, right, is when people know you're willing to take accountability and that you're going to do your part, then they're going to be more likely to want to collaborate with you,
Yeah.
right? Now, there's two types of people though. You get the people who want to be a leech, essentially, because they know you're going to do your part and their part if you need to pick up the slack. Or you can come across the people like what I got here was said, right? I know he gonna do what he gotta do. He know I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And it makes for a very powerful dynamic and partnership where we're able to accomplish a lot.
Right.
Like just me and him do this podcast. Just me and him, right? Just me and him run the website, run the social media
Everything.
platform, run the ads, create the content, do the reels, just me and him. Because there's a system in place and a certain level of accountability that he knows what he's responsible for, and I know what I'm responsible for, and we get him done, right? And then there's that level of accountability that we have towards each other,
Right.
where because none of us are perfect, we all kind of fall off a little bit, right? But he called me out, I call him out. Don't take it personal. Take that personal accountability, right? That extreme ownership. It's not his fault if I'm slacking. That's my fault.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even if he's not doing something that he's supposed to be doing, that doesn't give me an excuse to not do what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
right? And vice versa, right? And a lot of times people almost look for those excuses, right? Like they want it to rain or get real cold outside to be like, oh, I'm not going to the gym today. Like,
Hmm.
man, it was just too cold. It
Right.
was just, you know what I
Trying
mean?
trying to reason
Or
with
or
themselves.
or, oh, you didn't call me. Like, I didn't know we still were gonna do that. You didn't call me. Okay, well, yeah, but we made plans 3 weeks ago and we said this place and time. And I didn't tell you I wasn't gonna be there either.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you know what I mean? People typically, look for reasons, and that's what this whole concept of extreme ownership about, right? Instead of looking for reasons and excuses, you want to search for answers and
Solutions. Yeah.
solutions. You know what I mean? And again, very, very big concept. Very, very big.
That's major, man. And I think a lot of times what happens is, you'll always stay focused on where you are until you figure out a way to get to where you want to go. Right? You'll deal with situations your entire life, and you'll stay in those situations blaming people, not wanting to take accountability, avoiding things, being in denial. And the more you do that, and as the years progress, you find yourself in the same position. you haven't made any type of progress. You haven't done anything significant in your life. And that in itself should really scare you to a point. You know what I'm saying? Like that should really shake things up because it's like, man, I've spent all these years blaming this person for not being in my life or blaming this situation for a lot not allowing my career to take off or blaming or saying this is the problem as to why I haven't got to the place that I want to get in my life. And when you continue to make those excuses, it doesn't make room for solutions. What it does is it causes stress. And I always say, where there is stress, there's no solutions. You can't find an effective solution if you're continuing to stress, if you're continuing to put yourself in a situation where you refuse to look at yourself inwardly and ask, man, what can I do differently? How can I go about this situation from a different way. I take a different approach. And certain things that you want to do is like one, you want to reflect, right? And so you want to assess your everyday reactions and your decisions, recognizing your contributions, positive or negative, and how they affect your reality. You know what I'm saying? And reflection prompts awareness. And when you become aware, you're able to take the first steps towards cultivating extreme ownership, like awareness, self-awareness. I know with emotional intelligence, self-awareness is like the first thing that it talks about. When you're aware of self, when you're able to
Yeah.
really have that insight onto what triggers you, what makes you respond in a certain way, what motivates you, what inspires you, what do you feel can hold you back, you're able to navigate in a way that leads you towards a direction that's going to get you to the results that you want to have, right? And then the next thing that you want to do is just have ownership of your choices. So just admitting fault is not defeat, right? Admitting fault isn't defeat. What it does is it's a demonstration of strength. When you're able to say, you know what, that's my bad. I made that mistake. I'll take that on the chin. I'm gonna do better. That really shows your growth. That shows maturity, and then that also leads to people again, like E was saying, wanting to work with you, wanting to collaborate with you, wanting to help you. Because if you're always in denial or if you're always placing blame or pointing the fingers at everybody else, it's like, why would I want to help you? Because if things
Exactly. When you don't want to help
right, when you
yourself.
don't want to help yourself, and if things don't go the way that you want, you're gonna sit up here and you're gonna say it was my fault. Oh well, you didn't
Exactly.
do this, and this, so you the reason why. Like, no, 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 no. But what part did you play in this situation? What could you have done differently to impact the outcome or affect the results? Right? Like you have to have that mindset, because if you don't, again, that's going to cause friction in relationships. That's going to keep you stagnant, and then you're not going to see the progress that you want to see in your life. And then the next thing is just actionable accountability. So personal accountability, it's an action, it's a step, it's a move that you make when you're being personally accountable, and it requires a proactive mindset. Like you have to be proactive, you have to take initiative, you have to make the steps that are needed in order to see change, in order to experience progress. And what that does is it encourages constructive change and consistent improvement. You're not stagnant. You're continuously looking for ways where you can compound on your actions, because ultimately, when you're continuously working on yourself and you're continuously looking for solutions, like E alluded to earlier, man, that dynamic in itself will change your whole perspective. It'll reshape your world. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't go into situations looking like, oh, woe is me. It's like, okay, how can I find a solution? How can I fix this? How can I make this work in my favor? How can I look at this outcome and say, okay, this happened here, but now I know because of this, I should do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? Those strategies, those talking points, those tools that you gain, man, all those things are pivotal. You know what I'm saying? And so if you want to have that superpower, you have to be able to, again, reflect, have ownership of your choices, and then have that actionable accountability.
Yes, sir. So let's see here. We record these episodes earlier than when they air. And I was gonna give an example, but by the time y'all see the episode, those two teams would have already played. But you know, it's the NFL playoffs right
Right.
now, right? And you know, if I had to put my money on you know the teams that are gonna make it to the Super Bowl, I would say probably Baltimore and the Lions. You know what I'm
That's what I'm
saying? Because
taking.
for whatever reason, I think Baltimore is gonna beat KC. But with that being said, right? So if one of those squads are your squad, to give an example, you know, real life example. So imagine your favorite sports team is going against their biggest rival, or even if it's not their biggest rival, you know, when it comes to playoff football or playoff any sport, then they damn near your biggest rival
Yeah.
because those are you know
They the
high
ones that's
energy, big, intense
yeah,
games, right?
one and done.
Now say right exactly. So now imagine your team loses that game, and instead of blaming teammates, the weather, or the referees, each player looks within and asks the question, what could I have done differently? Right? So again, I'm gonna repeat that. Each player asks themselves, what could I have done differently? Right? That example right there highlights extreme ownership, where personal accountability replaces blame and actions supersede excuses, right? So those moments of self-assessing also helps transform failure into feedback and drive subtle shifts that bring about monumental transformation. And when we're talking about now that example talks about the benefit on a team level. And when I say team, I don't just mean sports. It could be professional, right? It could be personal,
Yeah,
because the way I look at it, my family is my team.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? My wife and my kids, that's my team, right? Um, in this game of life, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But you know, embodying that type of extreme ownership, right, becomes a catalyst for collective change, right? And it fosters you know, a culture of responsibility and you know, and domination of excellence, right? Like you strive to always find what you can do better, right? Because the reality is this, um whose kicker missed the
Oh,
field goal
Buffalo.
last week? Buffalo's kicker missed the field goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy for everybody on that team, fans and everybody to point the finger at that
At
kicker,
that one
right?
play. Yeah.
But like now let's go back through the entire game though. What about missed pass, drop balls,
Stephon Diggs.
fumbles?
Drop
You know what
that
I mean?
pass from
Right. All of these
Josh
other
Allen. Yeah.
various things, right? So instead of pointing the finger at the kicker, it's like, okay, Stephon should look at himself like, okay, what could I have done differently? I could have caught that pass, got the first down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Scored the touchdown. You know, and then that kick wouldn't have even mattered. Like my contribution could have helped the team overcome that
Yeah.
situation,
That adversity.
right? So it's like that's how we have to look at it. And when everybody thinks like that, you know, that's the catalyst for collective
Yeah.
change, where everybody is more focused on themselves, right? And there's a saying, right? People always talk about change the world, you know, how do you change the world? And the saying goes, you change the world by changing yourself. If everybody changed themselves, then the world
Yeah.
changes, right? And like literally, it's that simple. You know what I mean? But I think that example does a good job of kind of highlighting that on a team level. And like, you know, when I say team again, I'm not just talking about sports teams. I'm talking about in your household. Me as the man of my household, I need to have that sort of mindset that now trickles down to my wife and
Right.
kids, right? For them to look at themselves and have that same level of awareness, you know, accountability, and you know, we all grow, you know, personally, and then that you know translates into to us professionally. You know what I'm saying as well. But very big, uh, um, a really good example to highlight how big you know taking on that sort of um, mindset and really focusing in on what you can do differently,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't matter what they did. What can you do differently?
That's big. And again, that goes back to the saying, control what you can control. What
Control
every
the controllables.
Control the controllables. What everybody else does, you can't control that. Can you influence it to a degree? Yeah, you can. Your actions, your behaviors can influence certain things, but most importantly, you want to focus on the things that you can control, which is yourself. You may not be able to change a situation, but you can definitely change how you respond to a situation. You may not be able to necessarily affect the outcome, but you can definitely understand how the outcome affects you and how you should respond and how you should navigate and move through that particular challenge or that situation. And so you just have to be able to control what you can control. And then with that control, you're just taking ownership. Again, you take those things that you um know that you have control over, and you own it. You know what I'm saying? Like you tell yourself, okay, I know that I can impact this. I know that I can, you know, have the do these actions and commit to this behavior to make a situation better potentially, right? And so certain things that you can do, like encouraging yourself or encouraging self-reflection, that's something that you have control over. You can take the time to self-reflect. You can have a daily practice where you just reflect on the day and you ponder your actions and behaviors, and trace the consequences of those decisions or the outcomes of those decisions, positive or negative. Take that moment of reflection. Really think. Do a deep dive into your day and what went on, and think about, okay, I know this happened today. This made me feel this way. I know this happened. I got excited about this, and I think that was useful. That's something I want to take into my next day because I see the benefit of doing that. So, really, just doing that assessment as you reflect can impact overall outcome of the week, the month, and the year. Especially with this new year starting, it's good to have that moment of self reflection and have those moments of self reflection, because I think it's impactful and it can really change the trajectory of your year. Then the next thing is just practicing conscious decision making, right? And so understanding that before you make a decision, pause and consider the potential repercussions. And that's challenging for a lot of people. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like you act so much off of impulse that you don't realize the consequences of your actions in the moment. You just act. You don't even think about it, or you just respond or do something without really having a full understanding of what's going on. It's like, okay, I put myself in a situation because I didn't take the time to really be conscious about
Yeah,
the.
that's led to, oh my
Yeah,
bad.
nah, nah.
I was gonna say that that's led to a lot of people in jail and dead,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely, man. So you want to be able to practice conscious decision making. And we say this all the time too. Celebrate your wins. You know what I'm saying? No matter how small they are, celebrate your wins. Pat yourself on the back. You know what I'm saying? If ain't nobody else going to do it for yourself. Be your own champion yourself. Be your own cheerleader, right? And acknowledge your triumphs, no matter how small they seem. And let these victories just really reinforce your belief in your capabilities. And a lot of times people not going to give you, you're not going to have that amen chorus in the background. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to always have those people trying to motivate you and egg you on and say, oh yeah, you can do it. You got to be a self-motivator. You're going to have to self-motivate yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to do things based off of your own internal compass and your own self-awareness and internal belief to say, you know what, if anybody else going to motivate me and to celebrate me, I'm gonna do it myself. You know what I'm saying? So that's beneficial. Then from there, learning from your mistakes, right? Don't repeat the same mistakes. You have a mistake, you learn from it. You know what I'm saying? And view your mistakes as a teacher and not as monsters. Treat those mistakes really as precious learning opportunities, and in a way where you can make improvements. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't have those mistakes, you don't know the areas that you need to fix and that you need to correct. But when you do have those mistakes and when you do have your failures, and if you're taking extreme ownership of those things, you're going to figure out how you can make that situation better. What steps do I need to take to prevent this outcome from happening again? What do I need to do for myself and internally so I can make the necessary changes where I don't have to just be pointing the finger and placing blame on somebody else? I'm going to own my results. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to bet on myself. I'm gonna say if this doesn't work out, it's because I didn't do X, Y, and Z. I wasn't a
Okay.
great father, not because my father wasn't in my life. I wasn't a great father because I wasn't taking the necessary steps to change my actions, change my behaviors, be more present. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't able to be an effective business leader because I wasn't listening to anybody else. I was allowing people's actions to really dictate how I move and what I did, opposed to me really just evaluating the situation and how I was responding to everybody. You know what I'm saying? And so you definitely want to learn from your mistakes and then cultivate patience and tenacity, right? And like we're saying, with extreme ownership, is not an overnight transformation. It takes time. It takes time to shift your mindset. It takes time to shift your belief system, but it's going to require that persistent effort. It's going to require resilience. It's going to require time, but be patient with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Be patient with the process. And as you become more patient and you become more aware, then you'll be able to continue to move forward.
Hey man, that's good, and it just made me remember something. I think it was Ian Dunlap, right, the master investor on Instagram. He had posted something. He said, if you can go back, I think it was to your teenage self. If you can go back to your teenage self, what are three words you'd say?
Mm,
And the three that I chose was trust the process, right? Like trust the process. Because a lot of times we don't know no better when we're young and we're told a lot of things, but we don't really trust the process.
yeah,
Because, we all want instant gratification
right.
where like the tools and the things that we need are right there in front of us, but we just not trusting the
Yeah,
process. You know what I'm saying? But in summary, man, I'm gonna make this just short and sweet, right? So embracing extreme ownership will lead to endless possibilities, as we discussed throughout this episode, where personal accountability really kind of becomes like a superpower of sorts, right? It shifts your perspective from a passive recipient of circumstances to an active navigator of life's journey, right? You become, instead of being the co pilot, you know what I mean? You become the main pilot, like you're driving, you're
you're responsible.
responsible,
Yeah,
you're not just, in the passenger seat, you know what I mean? You driving, you know what I'm saying? Don't let this life just pass you by and let external forces be, your pilot, right? Um, Recognizing the impact of your choices, fostering a culture of responsibility, and translating all of this into consistent action really equips you with the tools to move your life forward. And we have a mantra, really in the hood, you know what I'm saying? Like, never change, or I'll never change, and that's like a bunch of BS, man. Like, you need to change, you know. Not changing is no movement, and
right,
everybody talking about they got motion.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, you got motion, that means you changing, you moving, things are different, so make sure that as you go through life and you go through these adversities and these circumstances that you're learning, as said just mentioned, right? Learning from your mistakes, and you're changing to become better,
Absolutely.
which is very, very important. And then, not only does extreme ownership affect personal advancement, but it also permeates professional lives, relationships, and beyond. And I spoke to that about, obviously it benefits you naturally, as an individual, but then it permeates into your professional life, and then also your relationships, your personal relationships at home, which I explain the family dynamic and how that can benefit you. And really it goes on beyond that, right? Because your represent not your representation, your
Reputation.
reputation follows you,
Yeah,
and when people know you're the type of person to take accountability and you're going to do what you say, and you're going to do your part, that travels,
yeah,
and that's the type of person I want to be. That's the type of person I want to be known as. And when I'm no longer on this earth, that's the type of person I want to be remembered as. You know, so very, very important. And then last but not least, walking the path of extreme ownership allows you to light up your life and contribute positively to your surroundings, building a legacy built on accountability, which is essentially what I just spoke on, right? So you got anything you want to add, said?
nah, man. I don't, man. I think you summed it all up, brother.
But hey, man, extreme ownership. I think it's a good title. I think it's one that really kind of makes you ponder a little bit, like, what does that mean? What is extreme ownership? But then once you kind of go through, you understand, like, oh, okay, it's really, basically me taking accountability, to the fullest
Yeah,
extent. And that's kind of what it is. So with all that being said, man, we always appreciate y'all for joining in, tuning in, for podcasting with us wherever you podcast. And we want y'all to come back next week and tap
absolutely.
in again. So be sure to tell a friend to tell a friend. And we do got a lot of stuff in the works for y'all, that should be rolling out very shortly here. I say within the next month and a half. And y'all know how it go, man. If you don't do nothing
Yeah, yeah.
else,
Keep it
keep it
thorough.
thorough. And we'll holler at y'all next time.
Deuces.
Doses.
Deuces.
Yeah, that was one